Tobin's heart pounded as the ground shook beneath him. Pieces of the crumbling city tumbled like heavy rain, and sparks from exposed wires lit the smoke-filled streets. He ran without looking back, his small hands clutching a torn backpack, legs moving faster than he thought they could. A metal beam fell just behind him, smashing into the cracked pavement with a deafening crash. Dust choked his throat, but he didn't stop. A low, rumbling growl echoed through the ruined buildings. Tobin froze, his wide eyes scanning the shadows. Something moved, too large to be human, too alive to be just debris. Scales glimmered in the dim light, wings folding against a shadowed form crouched under a collapsed wall. Tobin swallowed hard. His instincts screamed danger, yet something in him stirred, curiosity, maybe courage, or just the stubbornness of someone who had nothing left to lose. The creature hissed, a sound that cut through the thunder of collapsing streets. It tried to push itself free, but the beam pinning it was too heavy. Tobin's first thought was to run, to vanish before it noticed him. But then he saw its eyes, bright amber, wide with pain and fear. They were not angry, not murderous, just trapped and scared. Tobin ran forward, ignoring the ache in his legs and the fear twisting his stomach. He grabbed a metal rod lying nearby and wedged it under the beam, prying with all his strength. The beam shifted slightly, but not enough. Sparks flew when he struck it with another piece of rubble. The creature flinched but did not lash out. Tobin's hands were raw, bleeding from the effort, yet he did not stop. One more push, one more strike, he could do this. A sudden tremor rattled the street. Part of a building collapsed nearby, sending clouds of dust and stone flying. Tobin ducked instinctively, but he did not let go. Another push, a grunt of effort, and the beam shifted just enough. The creature wriggled free, staggering out from under the rubble. It was taller than him, humanoid but scaled, wings folded awkwardly against its back. Its breath came in harsh hisses, chest heaving. Tobin stepped back, his small hand extended. "I'll help you," he said, voice shaking but firm. The creature tilted its head, eyes narrowing, assessing him. There was hesitation, a silent question hanging in the smoky air. Tobin's pulse raced. Every instinct screamed danger, yet he felt no fear of the unknown, only the need to act. The creature hesitated, then reached a clawed hand toward him. Tobin grasped it. The skin was rough, warmer than he expected, and trembling. He felt the strength beneath it, a raw, restrained power that could crush him if it wanted. Yet it did not. For the first time since he had run into the ruins, Tobin felt a spark of connection, something beyond fear, beyond survival. Then a sharp metallic screech cut the air. Tobin spun, heart leaping, and saw several drones dropping from the sky like falling birds of steel. Red lights glowed on their hulls, scanning the rubble, seeking movement. One word dangerously close, missing him by inches. Tobin grabbed the creature's hand harder, pulling it behind a fallen wall. "Stay down. Stay still," he whispered. The creature lowered itself, wings quivering, but obeyed. Tobin scanned the street, mind working faster than his fear. There was a narrow gap between two collapsed buildings, a path they could take. He could see the drones scanning, their red lights sweeping closer. If they moved now, they might escape. If they waited, they would be trapped. Tobin glanced at the creature. "You can fly, right? You just need help?" he asked. It hissed softly, almost a sigh, wings twitching. He nodded. "Then we try together. I'll guide you. Trust me." The air around them vibrated with the drone's approach. Tobin grabbed a piece of jagged metal, holding it like a dagger, and led the creature toward the gap. Sparks flew from broken cables as they ducked and rolled, dodging falling debris. One drone swooped directly at them. Tobin slammed a fallen beam onto the wall above, sending rubble crashing down and forcing the drone to veer off. His heart raced, adrenaline blurring his exhaustion. They reached the gap. Tobin climbed first, using a broken pipe as a handhold, then helped the creature follow. Its wings caught the edge, quivering, shaking under the weight of fear and injury. "Almost there," Tobin urged. With a final push, it tumbled over the edge. Tobin leapt after it, landing hard on the other side. They lay there, panting, dust coating their skin and scales. Tobin's hand still held the creature's. For a moment, silence fell, broken only by the distant whine of the drones. He whispered, "I have no home, and you have no mother." The creature's amber eyes softened, almost human in their grief. Slowly, it reached for his hand, pressing it against its own. Tobin felt a spark of hope, fragile but real. A rumble shook the ground beneath them again. This time it was deeper, heavier, something far larger than the drones. Tobin froze, gripping the creature's hand tighter. Its eyes widened, scanning the horizon. The ruins ahead were trembling as if something alive and enormous was moving toward them. Tobin swallowed hard. "We're not alone," he said. The creature hissed, low and warning, wings twitching in fear. Something was coming, and neither of them were ready. Tobin's chest heaved as he pulled the dragon woman, Saris, behind a twisted wall of metal and rubble. The ground still trembled beneath them, but the heavy rumble was different this time, slower, deeper, like the heartbeat of a giant. Tobin glanced around, trying to see what could cause such a sound, but smoke and shadows swallowed everything. "We have to move," he whispered, voice tight. Saris's wings twitched nervously, scales bristling. She had followed his lead before, but now she hesitated, fear written across her alien features. Tobin crouched, scanning the street ahead. "That way," he said, pointing toward a broken skybridge that stretched over the gap between two half-collapsed buildings. "We can use it to escape." Saris hissed softly but didn't argue. Tobin reached out, touching her scaled hand. "I won't let anything hurt you," he promised. His words surprised even him. They sounded steadier than he felt. As they crept forward, a drone's red searchlight cut across the ruins. Tobin froze, pressing Saris against the wall. The drone's sensors scanned carefully, whirring with mechanical precision. If it saw them, escape would be impossible. Tobin's mind raced. He spotted a pile of metal debris beside them, rusted pipes and jagged plates. Grabbing a pipe, he threw it with all his strength. It clanged against the wall on the far side, sending sparks and drawing the drone's attention. The red light swung and the drone followed, giving them a precious few seconds to move. "Go. Now," Tobin hissed. They darted forward, Saris stumbling with the weight of her injured wings. Tobin grabbed a loose cable, swinging across a gap and landing hard on the other side. Saris hesitated, claws scraping the stone. Tobin reached back. "Take my hand," he yelled. With a grunt, she latched onto him and together they crossed. For a brief moment they paused. Tobin could see the city stretching like a broken maze around them. Collapsed towers, sparks flying from exposed machinery, smoke curling into the sky. His chest burned, lungs aching, but he couldn't stop. Not now. Not when she depended on him. Then the artifact he had found earlier, the glowing crystal embedded in alien metal, pulsed suddenly in his pocket. Tobin fumbled to pull it out. Its soft blue light spread across Saris's scales, which shimmered and reacted as if alive. She hissed, startled, wings flaring slightly. Tobin held the crystal closer, studying it. I think it wants to help us," he whispered. A loud crash cut through the moment. One of the drones had returned, bigger than the last, with jagged metal arms and scanning beams that glowed red-hot. It started to lift debris in its path, testing the rubble for movement. Tobin's stomach sank. If it discovered them, they would have nowhere to run. He gritted his teeth. "Listen to me," he said, voice firm despite the fear clawing at him. "You can't fly fully yet. We'll make it across together. You follow my lead, okay?" Saris tilted her head, amber eyes locking on his. The almost human understanding in her gaze was enough. Tobin nodded, gripping her hand tightly. They sprinted toward the skybridge. Pieces of rubble fell around them, smoke stinging their eyes. Tobin leapt over a broken section, landing with a painful thud, but he didn't stop. Saris followed, claws scraping against stone, wings catching the edges to stabilize herself. A drone swooped close, scanning them. Tobin picked up a jagged piece of metal and swung it against a nearby beam, creating a shower of sparks that drew the drone's attention just long enough. They reached the middle of the skybridge. Tobin looked down. The drop was dizzying, a canyon of jagged ruins and glowing red-hot cores from broken energy conduits. "Almost there," he panted. "Just a little farther." Saris's wings quivered, pain flickering in her eyes. Tobin grabbed a loose wire, looping it around a beam. "Hold on," he yelled. She latched onto it instinctively. A sudden tremor rocked the bridge. Tobin slipped slightly, yelping. Saris's grip tightened, pulling him upright. Sparks flew from exposed cables and a section of the bridge cracked, tilting dangerously. Tobin realized they couldn't continue like this. The bridge would collapse if they went any further. He looked around quickly, spotting a pile of debris nearby that could form a makeshift platform. Thinking fast, Tobin grabbed chunks of rubble, stacking them carefully. Saris followed his motions, nudging larger pieces with her snout and claws. Their teamwork was clumsy but effective. The pile formed a small, stable platform just tall enough for them to cross to the next building. Tobin climbed first, helping Saris follow. She hesitated once, glancing at the approaching drone, but Tobin's determined gaze held her in place. They landed on solid ground on the other side, panting and shaking. Tobin wiped sweat from his brow, looking at Saris. "We made it," he said, a small smile breaking through. She lowered her wings slightly, a quiet hiss of acknowledgement, the first moment of trust between them. Tobin's moment of relief was cut short by a deep, resonant rumble beneath their feet. The ground vibrated like a living heartbeat. Saris stiffened, wings twitching nervously. Tobin's heart sank. The tremor wasn't from the drones, and it wasn't the crumbling city. Something far bigger, something alive, was moving toward them. He swallowed hard, gripping the artifact tightly. Its blue light pulsed faster, reacting to Saris's scales. This isn't over," he whispered, voice tense. Saris hissed low in agreement, crouching, wings half spread in defensive posture. From the shadows ahead, something massive stirred. Tobin's pulse quickened. Whatever it wasn't a drone. It was bigger, older, and it was coming straight for them. Tobin looked at Saris, determination flashing in his eyes. "We survive," he said. "No matter what." The rumble grew louder, and the shadows shifted in impossible shapes. Tobin felt a surge of fear, and the thrill of knowing he was facing something no human had faced before. The first shadow emerged from the smoke, and it was enormous, moving with terrifying purpose. Tobin's hand tightened on Saris's. And then it stopped. Waiting. Watching. The massive shadow waited, hidden behind the smoke and twisted metal. Tobin squinted, trying to make out its shape, but the dim light and swirling dust made it impossible. His chest hammered, not just from running but from the sense that they were being measured, studied, like prey beneath some ancient predator's gaze. Saris hissed low, a deep rumble vibrating through her chest. Her wings twitched nervously, and her claws scraped the ground. Tobin could feel her fear, yet there was something else, recognition. The shadow moved again, subtly, revealing a jagged silhouette, towering over even the tallest ruins, scales glinting faintly in the weak light. Tobin's stomach dropped. Whatever this was, it was alive. And it was intelligent. "We need to move," Tobin said, voice low but firm. "We can't fight that thing." Saris glanced at him, eyes narrowing. She wanted to argue, maybe attack, but Tobin's determination held her in check. "We survive. Together." Tobin's mind raced. The artifact in his pocket pulsed, brighter now, reacting to Saris's proximity. He pulled it out, holding it up. Its blue light reflected off her scales, making them shimmer like living glass. She hissed in surprise, stepping closer. Tobin noticed patterns forming on her wings, glowing faintly in sync with the crystal. Maybe it can help," Tobin murmured. He scanned the broken ground, searching for materials. Rusted metal rods, wires, and scraps littered the street. His fingers worked quickly, weaving the wires around the crystal and connecting them to the artifact's base. Saris crouched beside him, curious despite her wariness, wings twitching. A drone buzzed nearby, sharp and insistent. Tobin ducked, then threw a jagged piece of metal at it. Sparks flew, but the drone adjusted, circling closer. Tobin's teeth gritted. He didn't have time for hesitation. He pressed the artifact against Saris's arm, and instantly her scales reacted violently. Blue light surged along her limbs, crawling across her chest and wings. She yelped, nearly stepping on Tobin. "It's okay. I'm helping you," he shouted. He grabbed her clawed hand, steadying her. Slowly the light stabilized, forming a faint shield around her. The drone swerved away, unable to penetrate the field. Tobin's eyes widened. "It works." Saris hissed, not in pain but in something that sounded almost like surprise. She flexed her wings experimentally, the light pulsing in tandem with her movements. Tobin's heart raced. They had bought themselves a few precious minutes, maybe more. He grinned, breathless. "We're not defenseless," he whispered. "Not anymore." The massive shadow stirred again, shifting closer. Tobin felt the ground vibrate beneath his feet. He turned slightly, trying to see more of the creature. Its eyes glowed faintly, golden and intelligent, watching them like they were toys, or threats. Tobin swallowed hard. He had never seen anything like it, not in stories, not in dreams. This was real. Terrifying. And it was alive. "Saris, we need to get higher," he said urgently. "Up that building, over the rubble." She hesitated, wings flexing. Tobin grabbed her claw, tugging gently but firmly. "Trust me. Please." She hesitated, then, with a hiss that sounded almost like agreement, she followed. They scrambled across broken streets, debris crunching underfoot. Tobin spotted a half-collapsed tower with a scorched skylift at the top. If they could reach it, they could gain the high ground, maybe even see a way to escape. But the massive shadow was moving faster than he expected, and the drones were still circling, scanning relentlessly. Tobin's mind worked frantically. He grabbed another scrap of metal, wedging it against a loose pipe to create a makeshift lever. With a grunt, he toppled a small pile of rubble in the shadow's path. The creature paused, growling low as if irritated but not deterred. Tobin's heart pounded. He didn't know if the pile would hold, but it gave them just enough space to reach the tower base. Ceres's injured wings struggled as she climbed, claws scraping the stone. Tobin pushed her gently, encouraging her with words he didn't know he could say. Almost there, you can do it. She hesitated at the last ledge, looking down at the gap. Tobin swallowed fear and leapt forward, holding out his hand. Now. She grasped it, lifting herself with trembling strength. The blue light of the artifact pulsed fiercely, casting shadows across the ruined city. Tobin landed hard beside her. They were safe for now on the platform of the tower, but the shadow did not stop. From below, it loomed larger than ever, dwarfing the drones that scuttled around it. Tobin realized something shocking. The artifact was responding not just to Ceres, but to the creature itself. It pulsed faster, glowing brighter as if warning them, or communicating. He glanced at Ceres. Her eyes mirrored his shock. It's sensing it, she hissed softly. Something powerful. Before Tobin could respond, a low, rumbling roar shook the tower. The drones scattered, but the massive shadow shifted, revealing more of itself, jagged scales, enormous claws, and eyes that seemed to pierce directly into Tobin's mind. For the first time he felt the weight of his own insignificance. Yet beneath the fear, determination surged. "We survive," Tobin whispered, gripping Ceres's claw tightly. "No matter what." The artifact pulsed again, and this time Tobin felt a strange energy flow through him. It wasn't just shielding Ceres. It seemed to connect to him too, giving him clarity, focus, a sense of purpose. He could feel the puzzle pieces aligning in his mind. The artifact, the shadow, Ceres, they were all part of something bigger, something he was meant to influence. The rumble grew louder, shaking the tower beneath them. Tobin braced himself. The massive shadow leapt toward them, claws scraping the stone. Ceres hissed, wings unfurling, ready to defend. Tobin held his ground, heart racing, eyes locked on the approaching threat. Then, in a sudden burst of realization, Tobin's voice rang out. "The artifact, use it. Focus on it." Ceres's wings shivered, light spreading across her scales in response. The massive shadow paused mid-leap, reacting to the pulsing glow. Tobin realized they had a weapon, a way to survive. Not by running, but by using their wits and courage. And just as he understood this, something else shifted in the shadows. Something older. Something watching from beyond the ruins. The tower trembled beneath Tobin's feet. Smoke curled around the broken spires, and the city below was a twisted landscape of rubble, fire, and flickering lights. The massive shadow loomed closer, claws scraping against the walls of the tower, scales glinting with a faint golden sheen. Tobin swallowed hard, gripping Ceres's claw tightly. Her wings twitched, ready to spread, but injury held them half-folded. "We can't fight it head-on," Tobin muttered. "We need a plan, fast." His mind raced. Every second mattered. One misstep, one miscalculation and they would fall, or worse. The artifact pulsed in his pocket, reacting to Ceres, and he realized reacting to the shadow too. The drones circled below, buzzing like angry insects. Tobin glanced at them. He didn't have much to work with. A pulsing artifact, broken rubble, and Ceres, brave but injured. Still he refused to panic. Fear was a tool, he reminded himself. It sharpened focus if he didn't let it paralyze him. "Ceres, we need to use the artifact together," he said, voice firm. "I think it can protect you, maybe even stop it." Her amber eyes flicked to his, measuring, deciding. Finally, with a hiss that sounded like agreement, she touched her scaled arm to his hand. The artifact pulsed violently. A wave of energy spread across Ceres's wings and body, forming a faint shield that shimmered like liquid light. The massive shadow growled, deep and resonant. It swiveled, massive head tilting as it observed the glowing figure before it. Then it lunged. Tobin's heart leapt into his throat. He grabbed Ceres's wrist. "Hold on," he shouted. She pushed off the tower's edge, wings trembling. Together they jumped. The fall was dizzying. Tobin clutched her tightly as she struggled to maintain altitude. Sparks flew from broken metal around them as the shadow's claws tore into the side of the tower. The drones darted closer, scanning relentlessly. Tobin shouted instructions. "Left. Now. Use the light." Ceres's wings shivered, responding to the artifact's glow, and they veered just in time to avoid a deadly strike. Below them, the city's ruins blurred. Tobin's stomach twisted, but he kept his focus. The artifact pulsed faster now, almost as if alive. Tobin realized it responded to courage, to intent. If he concentrated, he could guide its energy, protect Ceres, even manipulate it against the shadow. The massive creature adjusted mid-air, following their path, scales glinting like molten gold. Its eyes locked on Tobin and Ceres, intelligent, calculating. Tobin's pulse quickened. This wasn't just survival, it was a test. Every instinct, every decision mattered. He could feel Ceres tense beneath him, her fear palpable. He whispered, "Trust me? I know we can do this." They reached a collapsed skylift, hanging like a bridge above the glowing chasm of the city's core. The shadow was right behind them now, wings thrumming, claws ready. Tobin's mind raced. The skylift's metal was thin, corroded, but strong enough for one person, or maybe two. "We jump," Tobin said. "On 3. Ceres hissed in alarm, wings flaring. Tobin counted silently, feeling every beat in his chest. 1, 2, 3. They leapt. Tobin clutched Ceres as the skylift swayed dangerously. The artifact flared, a bright blue pulse that rippled across her wings and body. The shadow lunged at the bridge, claws striking, but the energy wave pushed it back, creating space. Tobin felt a jolt of triumph. The artifact wasn't just protection, it was power, responsive, adaptive, alive. They landed on the other side, gasping. Ceres flexed her wings experimentally, testing their strength. Tobin's chest burned from exertion, but a small smile broke through. "See? We made it," he said, voice ragged. She hissed softly, almost in laughter, a sound that made Tobin's heart lift. But the relief was brief. The massive shadow didn't retreat. Instead, it paused, circling above them, its glowing eyes scanning. Something deep in its posture suggested calculation, not rage. Tobin realized it was waiting for a mistake. He glanced at Ceres. "We can't stay here," he said. "We need higher ground. Maybe the ruins above the canyon?" Her head tilted, then she spread her wings fully for the first time since her injury. Tobin's grip tightened on her claw. "Let's go," he whispered. They soared upward, dodging falling debris and avoiding drone patrols. Tobin guided Ceres, leaning into the artifact's energy, learning its rhythm. The pulsing light strengthened their flight, pushing back the drone scanners, shielding them from detection. He felt exhilaration mixed with terror. He was small, human, yet making impossible choices with life-or-death consequences. Suddenly the shadow roared, a sound that shook the very air. Tobin's stomach dropped. It dove, wings wide, claws aimed. Ceres hissed, wings flaring, shielding him instinctively. Tobin shouted, "Focus the artifact. On me." The blue energy surged, enveloping them both. The shadow skidded mid-air, roaring in frustration. Tobin realized they had turned the tide, not by brute force but by courage, ingenuity, and trust. They reached the plateau above the canyon, landing hard. Tobin's knees buckled, but he held Ceres's claw tight. Around them, smoke drifted, drones scattered, and the massive shadow hesitated below, watching. Tobin exhaled, chest heaving. "We survived," he said softly. Ceres lowered her wings, breathing heavily. Her amber eyes met his, glowing faintly in the artifact's light. She nudged him gently with her snout, a gesture of gratitude, trust, and understanding. Tobin smiled, exhausted but alive. For a brief moment, hope shimmered above the ruins. Then the artifact pulsed violently, projecting a faint holographic map into the smoky air. Red dots and glowing paths traced across the ruined city, and a faint voice, almost mechanical but intelligent, whispered, "You've awakened something that was never meant to rise." Tobin's heart skipped. He glanced at Ceres. Her scales rippled with the projection, wings half raised. Something far bigger than the drones, bigger than the shadow, was moving. Something older. Something alive. He clenched his fists, determination blazing. "No matter what," he whispered, "we survive. Together." The shadow below roared again, a sound that echoed through the canyon and then paused. Waiting. Watching. Calculating. And Tobin realized this was far from over. Tobin's legs trembled as he stepped back from the holographic map projected from the artifact. The smoke around them swirled, carrying the faint hiss of scattered drones and the low rumble of the massive shadow below. Ceres's wings were half spread, but she no longer trembled. She stood tall beside him, scales glinting faintly in the pulsing blue light. "We survived," Tobin whispered, more to himself than to Ceres. But even as the words left his mouth, he felt the weight of what had happened. They had faced something immense, something that could have crushed them in an instant. And yet, they were alive. Together. Sarah stepped closer, pressing her snout against his shoulder. Her amber eyes softened, and for the first time, Tobin allowed himself to smile fully. I didn't think I could do it, he admitted. Not alone. You weren't alone, Sarah hissed softly, a sound that seemed almost like reassurance. Tobin glanced at her, and for the first time, he realized that she wasn't just a strange alien creature. She was someone who had needed him as much as he had needed her. Both of them were broken, scared, yet somehow stronger for it. The massive shadow below shifted, growling low. It had retreated slightly as if acknowledging their escape, but its presence remained, a reminder that danger was never far. Tobin's eyes narrowed. He had survived drones, collapsing buildings, and a creature of unimaginable size. But the shadow was a new problem, one he could not ignore. Do you think it's angry? Tobin asked cautiously. Sarah's wings twitched. It's cautious, she hissed. It knows you are not ordinary. It waits. It watches. And it tests. Tobin felt a thrill of determination. Then we'll be ready. We'll face it, together. He held her claw, feeling the rough warmth of her scales beneath his fingers. We can do this because we're humans, he said softly. We think, we adapt, and we never give up. Sarah seemed to understand, leaning closer. Tobin realized he could feel her heartbeat in some strange resonance with his own. The artifact pulsed, linking them in ways he couldn't fully understand, guiding them toward survival, toward something greater. As the smoke cleared slightly, Tobin surveyed the ruins around them. The city was still a broken maze, but there were paths they hadn't explored, streets that led upward, toward structures that had survived the collapse. The artifact pulsed faintly as if directing him. He stepped forward and Saris followed, wings flaring gently as she adjusted her balance. They moved carefully across the rubble, small victories marking each step. Tobin found a beam he could use as a bridge across a deep fissure. Saris followed his lead, claws and wings steady this time. Every step reinforced their trust and courage. Tobin's heart swelled with pride. Despite being small and human, he had led, protected, and adapted. He had survived impossible odds. Finally, they reached a high vantage point overlooking the ruins below. The shadow was still visible in the distance, massive and menacing, but it no longer seemed to hold immediate threat. Tobin looked at Saris. We're alive. And we're not done yet. Saris pressed her head gently against his shoulder. Tobin smiled, feeling a deep bond forming between them. For a moment, he allowed himself to rest, to feel the relief and pride of survival. But the artifact pulsed again, brighter this time, throwing long, glowing lines across the ruined city. A faint voice whispered again, mechanical and intelligent, "The network awakens. The balance shifts. You are key." Tobin's pulse quickened. He glanced at Saris. Her eyes widened slightly, scales shimmering. They had survived the shadow, but this was bigger than both of them. The artifact had revealed something. A challenge, a mission, perhaps a destiny. Tobin's mind raced. The city below held mysteries, dangers, and opportunities he had never imagined. But for the first time he felt capable. Not just for himself, but for Saris, for any creature or challenge that came next. Humans could adapt, think, and persevere where others could not. He felt pride, not arrogance. A quiet certainty that courage and intelligence could shape outcomes against impossible odds. Saris flexed her wings experimentally, testing their strength. Tobin grinned. We'll train, we'll learn. We'll be ready, he said. The bond between human and dragon woman had transformed them both. Fear was replaced with determination and desperation with hope. Tobin looked down at the ruins and the distant shadow. He imagined the drones, the massive creatures, and the challenges that lay ahead. Every obstacle they had faced had taught him something new, about courage, about empathy, about the strength of a human willing to act when the world seemed against them. Then, from the horizon, a faint glow began to spread, a light unlike the artifact, broader, almost alive. Tobin's pulse quickened. He realized the city itself might be alive in ways they could not yet understand, holding secrets, allies, or even greater dangers. He gripped Saris's claw firmly. We survived this, he said, voice strong. But there's more out there. And we'll face it, together. Saris huffed softly, a sound almost like agreement, wings flaring. The artifact pulsed again, a faint trail leading toward the glow on the horizon. Tobin felt a thrill of anticipation. The adventure wasn't over, it had only begun. For the first time, Tobin didn't feel small or powerless. He was a human, and that meant something. He could think, act, and survive. He could protect Ceres, confront impossible odds, and face mysteries that would terrify anyone else. Humans were small, yes, but their courage, intelligence, and compassion made them extraordinary. And with that thought, Tobin stepped forward toward the horizon, Ceres at his side, the artifact pulsing steadily. The shadow below stirred but did not move forward, waiting for the next act. Tobin knew one thing clearly: whatever awaited them, they would face it together, and they would endure. The ruins spread before them, glowing faintly in the artifact's light. Something ancient had awakened. Something immense was watching. And Tobin felt a spark of exhilaration. This was only the beginning.